back to Ladies Can We Talk with Debbie Georgatos on 660 AM The Answer.
Well, hello. Welcome back to Ladies Can We Talk. I want to jump right into talking with our next guest tonight. We have on the line with us Ed Martin. Hello, sir.
Hey, how are you, Debbie? Good to be with you.
Thanks for coming on. Just very well. You know, I want to tell our listeners very quickly, I mentioned at the start of the show, but Ed Martin is associated with and works for Phyllis Schlafly and the Eagle Forum. And the reason I want to talk tonight with him is because there is a lot of discussion around the country about the potential to hold a convention of the states. And there are conservatives advocating for it and conservatives advocating against it. And Phyllis Schlafly is certainly a nationally renowned, conservative leader. She's a well-known figure in discussions about the Constitution for decades in America. And she is one of the ones who has very resoundingly said that we should not have even begin the process of a convention of the states. So why don't you start with, what is the top reason or the biggest reason you think that she is saying that this is not a wise thing?
Yeah, well, thank you. And to be clear, Phyllis is, I'm the president of the organization. Phyllis named me the president a year ago, actually, tonight. We just have our annual meeting in St. Louis of our state leaders. And Eagle Forum has been built over the last 45 plus years across the country on pro-family conservative positions. But it's pretty straightforward. In the course of human history, all history, the Constitution is one of the great documents that's ever been written. There's nothing wrong with the Constitution that needs to be changed. What's wrong is the people who are in the courts or in Congress or who are supposed to be living up to it. And the fear, even for the people that want to do a constitutional convention of the states, there's guys that call it the Article 5 Constitutional Convention, even they admit that there is a chance of a runaway convention, that things could get out of hand. And so we just don't think it's worth risking the Constitution. The John Paul Stevens wrote a book recently, The Retired Justice. He said all we need to do to make the Constitution right is to just change a couple words in the Second Amendment. Well, I don't think so, and I think, again, Phyllis has fought this movement, the idea of opening up the Constitution to multiple changes. She's been fighting it for 40 years, and it's mostly on the left. The people that are doing it right now are pushing it on the left. They want things like to change Citizens United and try to limit political speech. One of the great proponents of this is a guy from Harvard named Lawrence Lessig. He wants to change the whole Constitution. So usually it's from the left. And right now there's about 5 or 6 groups on the left. But unfortunately, some really good folks, and I don't begrudge them their intentions, but there's some good folks who are conservative enough think it's a good idea to get in and change the Constitution, and it's just too good a document. There's no doubting how great it is, and we don't want to risk that.
Well, I love your praise of the Constitution, and I talk about all the time on this show the idea that it's like the support structure of a bridge. That's what the Constitution is. It creates the structure of America. And if we were to follow it more closely than we do now, that it provides and protects. But I will ask you I know there are this one particular organization that I happen to hear the proponents speak. They're calling themselves the Convention of the States Project. It's on the conservative side. And one argument they've made, and I'm curious your response is, how do we ever stop, for example, the runaway spending in Washington, because if you don't have an amendment that says, somehow you must balance the budget by some point in time, or you must tie the budget to GDP, or in some way you must force the federal government to stop spending money. What's your thought about that?
Well, first of all, you bring up a good point. The Constitution is like a bridge. You said it's a structure, and right now we have people that are ignoring it. The question I would challenge the people who want to change the Constitution is, if we have people that are ignoring the Constitution now, why would getting a new set of provisions or a new Constitution mean they would start to abide by it? We have a misconduct problem. And on your balanced budget amendment, the question, I like the idea of a balanced budget amendment, but I will tell you now, if the current makeup of the Supreme Court or worse, who's to say that they wouldn't look at that and say, under the powers of the Congress, you have the right in, quote, emergencies to expand beyond what a balanced budget amendment says. They've read into the Constitution, the right to declare what marriage is. They decided that there's a privacy right for abortion. So what you need to do is not risk the Constitution. I'll give you a quick example, by the way. When you call, proponents will say we can limit it. We can limit it to just a few amendments. Read Article 5. Article 5 does not say how it can be limited. And when you call a convention, it's going to have to be occupied by someone. And someone's got to be there, delegates. It's probably going to be Barney Frank from Massachusetts, not Ben Franklin. It's probably going to be Nancy Pelosi, not Alexander Hamilton. And if you think it's worth in this culture, Justice Scalia said it's the wrong century to have a convention because the media and the culture have changed so dramatically. So let's have a movement to hold accountable the men and women in office. Let's impeach some justices who think that they're king. Let's use the Constitution. Justice Kennedy should be impeached for his misconduct. Instead, we have congressmen and women that want to talk about how we can maybe do this or maybe do that. Let's use the Constitution we have, and if not, throw the bums out. I'm for throwing every Republican and Democrat in office out of office in Congress based on their current guilty until proven innocent, because I think they haven't lived up to Article 1. Why would they live up to the Constitutional Convention of States 3 or 4 amendments? Read their proposed amendments. They're broad. One of the amendments of the Constitutional Convention of States is to have the Constitution, limit the powers. That's what the Constitution already does. It's already a document. So this is too risky. And let me be very clear. In the movement, I'm not naming names. I'm not picking one or the other. There's a lot of money. Some of it George Soros' money on the left, but there's a lot of money being made by a lot of people tapping into our fear and our anger. I'm angry too. But I just think we need to use the greatest document in human history, maybe one or two others, Magna Carta. But the Constitution, let's not risk it. I mean, this is just too good. It's too good.
Yeah, I always say, it's in human history we have the Bible, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution. They're like the 3 most important ones in all of human history. I should tell you, Ed, I have co-hosts, and Carrie wanted to jump in and ask you a quick question.
What is discussed, and the delegates can only discuss what the states have agreed on before they get to the convention of the states. So in a hypothetical, let's say that the only thing they want to talk about is term limits. We have had term limits put on only one person, which is the president, and so far that's worked. All of our presidents have abided by it. What if we decided that's the only thing we want to talk about, that's the only thing we want to discuss, and we want to put term limits on U.S. senators? Would that work?
Well, there's a couple problems. I mean, I see a few problems. First of all, you have to look at Article 5. Okay. It doesn't look like Article 5 allows you to limit. But in other words, and remember, the people that call a convention, if we go to court to stop them, we're going before the Supreme Court. And the current Supreme Court has shown a desire to write whatever they want, to decide so they could say, well, you guys thought you could limit it, but we're going to do it like this, and we'll see. And let me give you a really concrete example. The call of a convention is going to be someone has to actually issue the operating manual, a written document. On December 1st of last year, Reince Priebus of the RNC issued the call for the convention for the Republican Party. It's an actual operation. It's a document offered. In that document, Reince said, and you can look it up, he said, for the first time in history, even after each of the 50 states had said, we want to set up our rules of how we send people to the convention, Reince said, if you come to the convention unbound, and you're an RNC member, that's the chairman of the 2 committee with men and women, if you come unbound, we will bind you. The RNC will bind you according to the rules of your state for at-large delegates. Now you can say, well, Ed, that's in the details. But the RNC in the call changed the rules. And so my point is simply that we're taking the Constitution. This is such a great document. Why would we risk Justice Kennedy or Paul Ryan or some deal worked out between Mitch McConnell and whoever to offer the call and then have ourselves litigating to try to protect the Constitution? I mean, there's no doubt the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, much of the Constitution is things that the left and the culture despises. So I just don't think we should risk it. And I will say this last thing. It's really terrible that so many good conservatives and so much money is going into this fight. It's dividing the conservative people. Your tagline on the show is it's not about party labels. Forget the Republican Party now. Conservatives who love the Constitution, love the truths of God and of man, are looking at and we're fighting over this. And my point is we got other things to do, like elect a president, let's impeach some justices, let's throw some congressmen and women out on their ear. And I'm for term limits. I love it. But I hate to, again, Justice Scalia's line, we're in the wrong century to have a convention because the media, the culture, and even we the people might not understand what the founders were doing. Alexander Hamilton talked about rights from God. Would a convention, if it got to that point, would you have enough people that understood? Well, I don't know. I think it's such a blessing to have it, and I just don't want to risk it.
We are speaking tonight with Ed Martin, the president of Eagle Forum, and extremely articulate presenter of the thinking behind those who are against the idea of holding convention of the states. We do need to zip off to our break, but could I just give you one more second and let people know where they can go learn more information about what you were sharing with us tonight?
Yeah, eagleforum.org is our website, but I'd like to give people my email address is ed@eagleforum.org. That's ed, E-D, @eagleforum.org. And if you email me, happy to send you some of our stuff and be in a conversation. And I certainly respect a lot how angry and frustrated Americans are at what is a breakdown of our leadership. But I hope we'll go for new leaders and keep the great Constitution and not risk it. So I appreciate the chance to talk with you.
Ed Martin, great talking to you. Thank you so very much.
God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you.